We're taking what we did yesterday and adding a little bit to it to make it 8th grade math. We're taking the equations you did as 6th and 7th graders, and now we're putting variables on both sides. So to start with, go ahead and give those two a try. Those are two from your homework. I didn't put numbers with these or anything from your homework. Who's got the one on the left here? Ryder. All right, so step one, we distribute. So when we distribute, you're taking the 5, multiplying by both parts. So we got 37 equals -3 plus 5x plus 30. Most likely place someone would make a mistake there is forgetting to distribute to the second number. We combine our like terms. For like terms, we got the -3 and the +30. They're on the same side of the equal sign, so they can be combined. So we got 37 equals 5x doesn't get combined with anything. And the 30 minus 3 gives us 27. Then we solve. We solve by doing the opposite, doing those inverse operations. So we subtract 27 from each side. Cancels out there. We get 10 here equals 5x. Then we divide. 10 divided by 5 gives us x equals 2. Any questions on that one? Who's got the one on the right? Shane? 10's correct. So same idea, start off by distributing. In this case, you gotta pay attention, that -4 is what's being distributed. That minus goes with that 4. So we got 8 equals 8v minus 4v, and then it's a minus 32. If you forgot to distribute that minus, some of y'all might have had a plus 32, you need to make sure that minus goes with it. We can combine right there. So we got 8 equals 4v minus 32. We solve. We go plus 32 to each side. So we get 40 equals 4v. When we divide, like you said, we got v equals 10. Okay? Any questions on that one? All right, so what we are doing today, Like I said, we're going to be doing variables on each side. First thing though, when we look at this, I've got an elephant, I've got a mouse. We got to move one. Which one would you rather pick up and move? The mouse, right? You'd rather move the smaller one. All right, so let's make it a little tougher. Which one is easier to pick up and move? The balloon. All right, so if these balloons are filled with helium, which one's lighter here? Ones on the left would be lighter. More helium, lighter. They lift up more. Have you not seen up? Right? Lots of balloons lift things, right? So if you're trying to move them, more balloons would make it easier to move. So here's how this works for math. When we got variables, we got coefficients, we want to move the lower one. The lower coefficient is going to be easier for us to move, okay? So out of these two, which one are we moving? 3x. Out of these two, which one are we moving? Negative 2x. If you have a negative coefficient and you have a positive coefficient, you're going to want to move the negative coefficient. A little trickier. Which one are we moving? Negative 7x. That's the lower one. We want to move the lower one each time. I'm going to show you why in a second, but it's going to make things a little bit easier in general for you. All right, so if I've got that equation, I've got negative 3 plus 7w equals 4w plus 18. Which one do I want to move? We want to move the 4w. We're going to move it by doing the opposite. So it's a positive 4w, so I go minus 4w. Just like with anything else with equations, if you do something to one side, you got to do the same thing to the other side. So we go minus 4w on this side. It cancels it out there, which is what we want. We want to get the variable to one side. So on the left side, I've got minus 3 plus 3w equals 18. And now we got it as an equation we just would normally solve. So we do opposite. We go plus 3 to each side. So we got 3w equals 21. Divide by 3. W equals 7. All right. So is that anything super extra difficult to add to this? No. So like I said, I'm going to show you why we move the lower coefficient, okay? Let's say instead I move the 7w. If I move the 7w, subtract 7w from each side. So I've got negative 3 equals negative 3w plus 18. Right there is why. You get a negative coefficient. If you move the higher coefficient, you end up with a negative coefficient. That means you got negative numbers you got to work with. You might still have negative numbers if you move the lower one, but your coefficient will at least be positive. So when I solve here, I go minus 18 then. Minus 18. So I've got negative 21 equals negative 3w. That's supposed to be 21. My fault. When we divide, we still end up with w equals 7. So it still gets you the same answer. But you can see, like I said, I have to divide by a negative. You got to make sure you're keeping your sign straight a little more. So it does sometimes make it a little trickier. That makes sense? So if you move the lower coefficient each time, it's going to make things a little bit better for you. Y'all go ahead and try those two. Who's got the one on the left? Levi? No. Shane? One's correct. All right, so 3n or minus 5n, which one's lower? Minus 5. So we're going to move the minus 5 by adding 5n to each side. So we add the 5n. It cancels out there on the right. So we got minus 16 plus 8n equals a minus 8. So we solve by doing opposite. We add 16. So those cancel. Do it to both sides. 8n equals, signs are different. You subtract. Use the sign of the bigger number. That's 8. Then you divide. 8 divided by 8 gives us n equals 1. Got to make sure you're following your correct rules for your signs as you're working those out. If the signs are different, you subtract. If the signs are the same, you add. All right, any questions on that one? All right, on the right then. We got that one. Aiden? Negative 8 is correct. Forgot for a second. All right, so we got minus 4b and a minus 2b. Which one of those is lower? The minus 4 is lower. Think of number lines. Lower is further to the left. The bigger negatives are the lower ones. So if we move our 4b, we got minus 12 equals 4 plus 2b. Subtract 4. Signs are the same, so you add. That gives you negative 16. Like I say, you can't always completely avoid negatives, but we can avoid the negative coefficient at least. So now when we divide, signs are different. So we got b equals negative 8. All right. Any questions on those? So when we get to some that maybe are a little more complicated looking, it follows the same basic steps to start with. You distribute first, so if there's any parentheses, you got to take care of the distributing first. Then you combine like terms. Then you move the variables so they're on the same side, and then you solve by doing your opposite. All right? So we're just squeezing that extra step there at the third spot. All right, so if I've got this one here, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. First step, I got parentheses. I'm going to distribute. So my 2 gets multiplied. So I have minus 6 plus 3p. Whoops. Equals 8p plus 2 minus 6p. Now we combine like terms. Just like we said yesterday, you can't combine like terms when they're on opposite sides of the equal sign. So I can't combine the 3p with the other p's yet. So when I combine, I got negative 6 plus 3p. I can combine those. So that gives me 2p plus 2. Which one's lower, 3p or 2p? 2p. So we're going to move the 2p to get the variables on the same side. So we have minus 6 plus p, or 1p if you wanted to write the 1, equals 2. Add 6. So we got p equals 8. Okay? So looks a little more complicated to start with and all that, but still really only, like I said, one extra step from what we did yesterday, or what you did last year. Any questions there? All right, y'all try this one. Solve for m. While these obviously can get you fraction answers or decimal answers, this is one that should be a whole number if done correctly. All right, everything they got? Ryder? Mm-hmm. Amy? All right, step one, we distribute. Some people forgot there's a negative in front of that 2. So when you distribute, you're distributing that negative sign also. So we have a negative 10 plus 8m equals a negative 14m. Another thing I saw some people forget to do is the number in front of the parentheses gets distributed to both numbers inside the parentheses. So negative 2 times the negative 3 makes that a plus 6. And then you still got the plus 6 at the end. So you got to make sure you're paying attention to your signs, especially with the distributing, and you got to make sure you're distributing both parts. Now we combine like terms. The left side can't combine anything. There's a constant. There's a variable with a coefficient. Those got to stay separate. On the right side, I only got the one variable and coefficient, so that stays the same, but the 6's, we can make into 12's. All right, so I've got 8m and a minus 14m. Which one's lower? Minus 14. If you got a positive and you got a negative, move the negative. Like I said, it just seems like it makes things easier in general. I have seen there are some people or some teachers at other schools that they always move the variables to the left just because some of y'all seem to prefer it that way. I think it works out better for you moving that lower one though. So that's why we do it that way. Then we solve. But like I said, if you solve it correctly with the correct steps, it doesn't matter which direction you go. All right, so we get m equals 1. Any questions there? So if you follow your steps, follow your math, pay attention to your signs, this isn't anything like super tricky. For what we're doing today, this is about as tricky as these can look. So give that one a try. It's not necessarily tougher, it's just kind of trickier looking. All right, who's got it? You sell? P equals -7. So we distribute. Little trickier, like I said, we got two places to distribute, one on the left, one on the right. So the -6p, nothing to do with the distributing. We distribute 7 here, so 7 times 1 is 7, plus 7 times 3p is 21p. Then we distribute on the right side. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 8p makes 16p. We got some like terms we can combine on the left side. So I got 21p and a -6p. That makes 15p. Still got plus 7 equals 14 plus 16p. All right, which one should we move? Yeah, if we move the 15, that keeps our coefficient positive. I know at least one of you moved the other one, and you can still get the right answer if you do your math correctly. You just got more negatives to work with. So if I move that 15p, and do that from both sides, cancels out on the left. So all I got on the left is 7 equals 14 plus, it's p, I'm just going to put p. Then we subtract 14. So When we subtract 14, signs are different, so you subtract, but you gotta use the sign of the bigger number. So that's how we get that -7, and we don't divide by anything because our coefficient was just 1. Okay? Any questions on that? All right, so like I said, saw for sure one of you moved the 16. So again, if you want to move the other coefficient, it can work that way. You just got to make sure to pay extra attention to your signs. Those cancel. That makes -1p plus 7 equals 14. We subtract 7. So we got -1p equals 7. And then you got to divide by -1, which will flip it to -7. Okay? About the same facial expression some of y'all have had the last couple days.